Okay, I'm just looking for the other button to do, which is the one that does the transcript. Okay, which I'll hide under there. Right, okay, welcome everyone to our weekly call. Sunlight Viewers had a very cultural weekend, which is always a good thing. Okay, right, the main topic of conversation today, as you can see from the screen, is source privacy and decentralization beyond Encrypted Client Hello. Before we get to that, I should say thank you as always to our long-term sponsors, DNS OARC, whose support is much appreciated. So the plan is Gianpaolo will pick up in a moment to talk about all things to do with source privacy and decentralization. So picking up from a discussion that started, I guess, at the last IETF meeting in Montreal, or potentially for people that went to the age-based restrictions to content workshop in London a couple of months before then. I think that's when they first presented this Gianpaolo, so I'm looking to that to see maybe how things have moved on, if at all. And then depending on what time we've got, there's a load of stuff in the news this week, so we'll touch on some of that, time permitting, and also there's a lot of forthcoming events as well, so we'll pick up on some of those, as I say, time permitting. So without further ado, let me stop screen sharing so I can welcome and hand over to Gianpaolo. So, and no doubt there's some oblique references to pineapples, I hope, in this presentation. Yeah. I'll be disappointed if not. So,
you will find something now, so you'll find some of them.
Fantastic.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yep, that's working.
Oh.
And if you press the little book, yeah, that's it. That's full screen. Okay. It's all good.
So we have been talking for a lot of time about end-to-end privacy, but there is still some gap. And here I'm going to describe what is the problem that I want as first to highlight, and then to propose a mitigation slash solution. So the promise of ECH is to provide end-to-end privacy. In reality, it is a partial solution, because it is true that the ECH is hiding from one path of servers the destination, so nobody in the path can see anymore SNI or other metadata that highlight with the real destination, but it is not real end-to-end encryption, because it is adding a new network element that is not the destination, and this network element has visibility both on the source IP address and on the destination domain. So the client-facing server acts like an ISP of content providers. It handles ECH for a very large domain set. We are doing measurement today. The deployment of ECH is still limited. We are measuring about 7% over the top 1 million domain, but this is handled by only Cloudflare. So they are having visibility of all the domains that are implementing ECH. And given their claim is that they manage more than 30% of global traffic, this means that the visibility is talking about 1 billion of users. So what has happened? We have moved from a situation where ISP had regional visibility over traffic, so they could theoretically do correlation between source and destination for some million of customers, to a situation where you have a few CDN that can do correlation over billion of customers. They have visibility on source IP plus user metadata, and they are terminating the encryption, so no issue. In addition, we have some issue about centralization, because the previous situation was with synchronous between the position and the legislation. So the ISP was subject to the same legislation as the user. Now the CDN are global, so their legislation could be different respect to the legislation of the users. So this exposes also the users to problems regarding foreign surveillance. Now I'm going to explain this with the pineapple pizza scenario, where I'm supposing that there is a king of pizza that is very famous for his pizza skills, but is also a financial genius. So through his financial acumen, he is able to take the control of a major CDN, and as a gift to humanity, he wants to provide end-to-end privacy, deploying ECH to scale. In reality, he wants to implement a sort of surveillance of customers because he wants to split the population by pineapple pizza lovers and detractors. So given he has the capability to profile users by traffic destination, is able to divide the world into groups, lovers and detractors of pineapple pizza. And given his big influence, financial influence, and also political, he is able to implement restrictions to enter Italy to lovers of pineapple pizza, and even to the few Italian citizens that love pineapple pizza. There are some. He is going to put them under an harsh situation. I need to add this disclaimer. This scenario is purely fictional and created only for illustrative purpose to avoid any political issue, and no harm has been done to pineapple pizza lover who enjoy almost the same respect as any other person. This is to explain that profiling can have also some impact on real life. Then, what have we done with this issue? First of all, a presentation at IETF in the security dispatch group to verify with the community if they find that this problem is relevant and how to proceed. Community found that this problem is real and relevant, and created a mailing list, CFR at ietf.org, to continue working. And so please, if you are interested, join the mailing list and contribute to the work. Then I presented the topic at IETU at SG17, the study group that is related to security, to explain it under the perspective of centralization and privacy. And again, member states found it an important topic, and now it is a new ITU work item with a very complex name, but progressing also in this aspect. And on a different aspect, on IRTF, so Internet Research Task Force, the decentralization, human rights, and privacy groups, after the side meeting, asked presentations in their meetings and requested to progress with the work, as they found it very relevant for the purpose of their works. So, what are the objectives of this proposal? First of all, to highlight that privacy is not only the destination privacy, but if we want to protect customers against profiling and even against real life issues, as it may happen in many legislation, if their political activity online is used to harm them in their real life, we need to protect not only the domains that they are accessing, but also their identity. So the idea is to explore some alternative that can preserve privacy and decentralization without going against the proposal of ECH. ECH is doing something that is protect the destination. We need to protect also the other direction, so the source. And the proposal here is to have a lightweight relay that I'm calling a customer-facing relay, because here we are trying to protect customers, to mask the source identity. This is different respect private relay, because the aim isn't to avoid the full proxy and to avoid additional delays. So what is like the proposal? A very lightweight relay that is near the user, so at the access edge, that hides source IP while it is preserving ECH, so it is not adding something like extra hops or breaking the privacy. And it has to be economically sustainable for developers, as the issue with any new network element is to have also deployments. And if it is not sustainable, it is very hard to proceed with the deployment. And in addition, as I talked about legislation, and the access edge is subject to local legislation, it has still to comply with all the telco obligations, such as source IP logging, CSAM blocking, parental consent where it is required, etc. So CFR has to support to provide randomization, a random per connection assignment of IP port. We have already nothing, but nothing at telco level is deterministic. So it is not enough to provide the privacy to the customer. The idea is that if we can assign a random IP port from a wide pool for each outbound flow that at least is targeting the same client-facing server, we can avoid the profiling that can be done at the CDN edge. And this can be helped by having knowledge about what are the targets in client-facing servers. In this case, the CFR will improve its role in privacy preserving and implement trusted networking, as thanks to ECH, it will not have the knowledge about the destination, but will implement privacy for the source. So the proposal is to build this, so the request is for the interested people to join the mailing list at IETF to help refining the architecture. First draft idea is to have a new draft in the first half of the year by starting talking about methods to improve NATing, so rotation of IPv4 and IPv6 addresses and association to the target client-facing server. And keeping privacy, and also is very important that we keep in mind that deployment realism is key, so avoid having very big network elements that adds delay or high cost. And the details and the contacts are here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Gianpaolo. Who would have thought we would hear an Italian referring to pineapple as a gift to humanity, or pizza, pineapple on pizza as a gift to humanity? Controversial, but there you are. Couple of questions maybe to start the conversation. I'm sure others will as well. Although obviously the thing that sort of spurred this was ECH. I think I'm right in saying it's not tightly coupled to ECH. So you could do this in complete isolation of whether ECH is at the end point or not, and you'd still get some security benefits or privacy benefits, not security benefits, privacy benefits in terms of masking the source address from any destinations, which feels like a good thing. So I think that's correct. Is that the case?
Yeah, totally correct. So the issue is having a profiling element, so CDN front proxies. With ECH, there is a couple of points. So ECH will provide the destination privacy, and in this case, CFR will provide the source privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, product.
And then the second question on one of your slides, I think it made explicit reference to IPv6 address rotation, whereas in your in what you actually said, you talked about IPv4 and IPv6. So is the idea it would allocate, if my source destination is IPv4, it would randomly insert a different IPv4 and the same for IPv6?
Yeah, the idea is that typically due to the shortage of IPv4 addresses, we have IPv4 nothing, and so modify the IPv4 nothing, while for IPv6 it is not a given to have nothing. So here the idea is to implement a pool of IPv6 addresses that can be rotated and used to hide the IPv6 address of the user.
Yeah, fine. Okay. And with perfect timing, Tom has just raised his virtual hand. So Tom, over to you.
Just this is not the first time I've seen this, and it still amuses me every time I see it. So well done, Gianpaolo. I was just thinking, is there some unintended consequences here? Because we know that folks are still doing things by IP address on the server side that they probably shouldn't be. Like, hey, we're trying to work out where in the world you are by IP address, or we're trying to block abusive actors by IP address. Would this cycling potentially make that less useful? I'm not saying whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It might be a good thing for the internet as a whole for people to stop doing things by IP address.
So here, if it is implemented by ISP, in any case, there is the obligation to use local IP addresses. So the geolocation through IP addresses will not be harmed. And there is already the nothing. So if an application can survive nothing and is not using the association of IP address and destination to do profiling, it should survive. Then if they are doing cross-correlation of source IP address and the target domain, they could have some problem. But in this case, this is just the fight that we are doing to avoid the profiling. At least, I think.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Anyone else got any questions? Give you a moment to think if you do, and if you do, raise your virtual hand or pop something in the chat if that is easier. Just to give people a few seconds thinking time. It occurs to me, it seems to be analogous to things like MAC address randomization, but on a network as opposed to on a device. But conceptually, it's the same sort of thing, or at least it is to me, as an idea. Right, Tom wants to know if there's any fruit acceptable on pizza. With that, maybe we'll put that for the after party conversation.
In reality, tomato is a fruit, so it is acceptable.
Good answer. Good answer. All pizza pretty much has fruit on it. It turns out. Shock. Right. I'm just seeing if anyone else got any other burning questions. I mean, to be fair, it's a very straightforward presentation, so. Very self-explanatory. And are you happy to share the slides, Gianpaolo?
I'm happy to share the slide and happy to have contributors.
Perfect. Okay, if you ping that to me, I'll share that after the call with everyone. Excellent. Right, well, let's pause there then, as it seems like you covered all the bases perfectly clearly, which is marvellous. I'm seeing there's a couple of people from ISPs on the call, so I'm guessing they may well reach out afterwards if they've not already spoken to you, so that's good to hear. Okay, and Kevin's helpfully correcting the pronunciation. We will move on and avoid that sort of controversy, or I can't say it the other way. Anyway, you know what I mean. Right, thank you, Gianpaolo. Let's swiftly move away to simpler topics. So I mentioned there's a lot of stuff in the news this week, and so much so I won't try and go through it all because it would take far too long. And those of you on the weekly mailing list for that will have had a chance to read it anyway. If you're not on the mailing list and want to be, just ping me an email and ask. But rather topically, continuing the Italian theme, we talked about some of the coverage last week with Cloudflare being fined by the Italian regulator for not blocking access to certain destinations that were allegedly infringing the copyright of the Syria content, and that conversation has continued and gathered some momentum. So I think since last week, Matthew Prince, CEO of Cloudflare, has indicated that they will be contesting the fine and won't pay it, and if needs be, will withdraw services from Italy. I think, to broadly paraphrase what's been said. A number of the other European leagues have expressed support for Syria, unsurprisingly. To raise the stakes further, Cloudflare have indicated they might withdraw their in-kind support for the Winter Olympics, which are taking place this year in Italy. But also coincidentally, I saw some coverage that Italian broadcasters are seeing rising revenues. So maybe Piracy Shield is having the desired effect to counter the piracy. But anyway, so there's a lot there worth a read. Completely different tack. WebPro News, Sarah Donnelly I was quite impressed, quite a detailed piece on different benchmarking tools for the DNS, which he sort of walked through some of those and also highlighted some of the pros and cons. So yeah, for what it's worth, and referenced some related studies on the topic. So those of you that want to do DNS benchmarking, that will certainly be worth your time to take a look at that. As I say, I'm not going to go through all of these, but the AdGuard, there's a blog post about them supporting post-quantum cryptography with the latest iOS version of their software for their DNS, so supporting DO, so .do and doc with PQC. So there's a write-up about what they've done and how they're doing it, if that's of interest. It's quite a detailed piece, as always, from Infoblox. Sorry, not from Infoblox this time, Akamai rather. There have been some past coverage on the dangling DNS and the problems that that can cause in terms of security issues, dangling DNS records. But actually, Akamai in their latest blog post highlighted to go beyond that by that attackers can leverage AI and exploit the vulnerability a lot further and use it, in their words, as an automated data exfiltration pipeline. And you definitely don't want one of those. So again, worth a piece, just expanding the thought process on the risks posed by sort of poor DNS practices, in this case, the dangling DNS records. Whole bunch of other stuff, and since we're just talking about, well, to extrapolate what Tom was asking about, the sort of the linking IP addresses to geographers, etc. There's actually a piece on that topic by Kenny Huang, who's chair of APNIC's Executive Council, applying his sort of thoughts to the implications of the low Earth orbit satellite networks, Starlink, OneWeb, et al. And some of the challenges that poses, which he does highlight, not just for IP addresses, but also for numbering as well. And he works through how to mitigate some of that and proposes some work to take place at the IETF, amongst other things. So again, interesting article, caught my eye anyway. Other stuff, call for nominations for the PIR, Public Interest Registry Board of Directors, which closes at the end of this month. So if you want to nominate yourself or anybody else, feel free to do that And you've got nearly a couple of weeks to do so. If you know any fine person that will be an excellent member of the PIR Board of Directors. Perhaps for some of you also of interest, I noted the Internet Society Foundation has got just opened funding applications for grants or sponsorship, technically they called it, of up to $25,000. Again, in their words, for organisations directly involved in planning recognised NRIs or SIGs with special consideration given to Internet Society chapters. So anyway, there's a lot more details on the link. So if you're looking for funding for saying, as I say, up to $25,000 is available, but with strings, as you would expect. Loads of other things, won't go through them all. Other non-DNS and internet governance stuff that caught my eye. A whole week's worth of coverage on Grok and AI-enabled notification apps. I happened to pick out a piece from Politico, but there's a load of other coverage on that I'm sure you will have seen. Perhaps more niche but interesting piece, cyber criminals at the bottom of the screen there, recruiting insiders at specific organisations. Not a great surprise, but interesting to read about that. And I think you could see perhaps leveraging some of the attacks that are being sort of tested at a smaller scale as well to help with that recruitment. So I wouldn't be overly surprised to see sextortion applied to family members of people in enterprises as a route in bypassing all the expensive cyber security practices, for example. Other things, first out the gate, I think Etsy with a standard for AI, this one on securing AI. I don't recall any other actual open standards being published yet on AI. I think so. That is the first, or one of the first, I think. And also another one that caught my eye, which I was quite shocked at, given all of the hallucination issues with AI generally. People are using vibe coding. Nearly half of software developers don't check the code, which is quite scary given the potential exposure that leaves enterprises and other organisations to. So probably not a good idea in my opinion. You may think otherwise. And I think that was probably it on the things that I earmarked. Yes, okay. Tom in the chat, cup half full, nearly half say that they do check the code, I suppose is a good thing. But if you have
They only say that, like half of those are lying.
Yes.
I'm very much cup half empty today.
But quite scary that people just take it as is and put it into production. That's not a clever idea in my opinion, and I'm sure we'll be reading through the course of this year. So here'll be my prediction for the year. We will read stuff this year where it turns out one of the sources for the problem was the code wasn't checked and came out of one of the various large language models. Okay, in terms of some impending deadlines and other stuff, if you want to provide comments to the ICANN NomCom, you've got till a couple of days out, till Wednesday to do that. So they go through, they're appointing, I think there's about 7 people to different parts of the ICANN membership, sort of leadership rather, both the board and other roles. And they've reached out to the community for comments. So you've got till Wednesday if you haven't already done that and you're interested. 26th is the deadline for super early registration for IETF 125 in Shenzhen. And remember that also applies for remote registration as well. So you can save a fair number of dollars by registering by the 26th, which is what, next Monday. Also on Monday, if you haven't done it already, the Secretariat reminding people to complete the community survey. They've got about 1,200 responses. They're hoping to get 2,000. So if you haven't done that, it doesn't take that long. It's not that hard. Worth doing You can share your views. And then finally, one I just mentioned, on the 30th, I said about the nominations to the PIR Board of Directors, self-nominations or nominations of others. And then there's a bunch of stuff, but not till February, so we'll worry about that nearer the time. So there's a few deadlines coming up in the next week or so to be aware of, but probably the main one, super early registration for Shenzhen, if you've not already done that. I did look at the total number of registrations. It wasn't that high, either for in-person or indeed for remote, so just be aware of that. Not a surprise that the number of in-person ones is down, but I thought the remote was quite low as well. And then there's loads of events coming up, including, in no particular order, again, I'll just highlight some of the ones coming up imminently. The path ahead for ICANN's DNS abuse mitigation efforts on the 28th, so middle of next week, I think that is. DNS for EU stakeholder group next Thursday probably. Also on Thursday, on 29th anyway, two things which look the same, they're not quite. It's the same thing but at two different time slots. That's the Internet Society has got two hybrid sessions, I think, the Internet in 2026. One's something around, I think, 1 p.m. 1300 UTC, I think, and then something like 1800 UTC or something like that. But anyway, so they're deliberately timed to help people in different time zones, but sort of mainly focused on Europe and I guess North America in particular on those timings. And then again, I won't go through the rest of these, but yeah, you'll see before we know it, NANOG will be hitting us the very beginning of February. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and then loads of things after that. We've got a busy March with the ICANN meeting, IETF itself, the RSA conference, ITU, etc. So loads of things happening in quick succession. So it's going to be a fairly frenetic March, certainly, for some of us. Anyway, that's just a reminder of that stuff. The links will take you through to the detail if that's of interest. And then in terms of stuff on this call, just a reminder, next week we're going to talk about the case for and against blockchain-based naming systems. These are in alphabetical order by surname. Ross and Josh, both from Infoblox, will be talking for the case against blockchain, mainly. Is it a solution looking for a problem? Alex for ENS is, unsurprisingly, going to be talking for the case for blockchain-based naming systems. It'd be a bit weird if he's from ENS and thought that was a bad idea. And then, interestingly, Michael is going to pitch in with, and he's on the call, so he might correct me if I got this slightly wrong, but as I understood it, Michael, I think just looking at what some of the implications are for sort of ICANN contracts, were blockchain-based naming systems to be a thing for registries within the sort of ICANN sort of ecosystem.
I think that's a fair summary. Again, I've been following a lot of the work that has been taking place within SAC on this, within ICANN. So yeah, again, I look to try to provide sort of a different perspective to the discussions taking place next week.
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting to get both the for and against. Again, that's probably grossly simplifying what Ross, Josh and Alex will say, but the gist of it. But also then look at, well, if it does become a thing and it is within, for registries and so on, well, what does that actually mean? I think that's an interesting aspect to consider. Before I go on, Peter, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, just a quick thing. So last week, I think you shared a link to something from Messari about a thing called DOMA.
I did, yes.
Yes. So I've been having a look at that, and I always try and point out when it comes to the discussion about blockchain domains that it's sort of going to happen anyway, and there's people putting money and energy into it, and it might be a silly idea from our point of view, but we should maybe try and help them out a bit. Anyway, but So I try and like temper sort of reactions from people when I can, if I can. But that particular article had I honestly I could not get through it. I think, well, for one thing, I'm sure it's AI written by AI, which is, a thumbs down already. But then it has a higher density of buzzwords per sentence, I think, than anything I've read for a really. I had an almost like physical reaction reading it because it was just so difficult. It really like I can feel myself going over to the other side. It's
Yeah, I think I said last week it did talk about letting you bringing financialization of assets into the DNS world, because if you like, for traditional domains, you don't own them, you only rent them, so it's hard
yeah.
to analyze the asset value. But then, then pointed out, but because it's linking a blockchain-based name to a DNS name,
Yeah.
it's hard to actually financialize that because you still have got that issue of only renting the DNS bit. So yeah, I think it was. Anyway, yeah, I was a bit skeptical about that specifically. I think probably there's more rationale to things like ENS than that, but who knows? Maybe that will come up in some of the stuff next week. I'm not sure that it will, but you never know.
Can I just read one sentence from it? Just as an example, but it's like by enabling compliance with the regulatory frameworks of ICANN and national governments, blah, 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 DOMA unlocks the latent financial value of an industry that has remained structurally stagnant for decades. Its modular L2 design, compliance-oriented lifecycle modules, and built-in financial primitives create a unified infrastructure where domains can operate simultaneously as titles, identities, and capital. Like, I'm.
Can you actually believe that an AI could write such a load of bollocks, though?
It's just
That's got to be a human.
it's just it's just one sentence out of the whole thing. Anyway, I just wanted to say something about it because
Cool.
I've
Welcome to the foundation session of our MBA. Has anyone got any questions? Yeah, that was. I mean, yeah, it's also, I guess, quite hard to pitch a concept to both the technical community and the financial and banking community simultaneously. It's maybe that didn't help either. So there you are. Yes. So yeah, you've helpfully put a link in the chat. So anyone that didn't look at it last week, for your homework, you need to do that to see whether you agree with Peter, and it will segue very neatly into the discussion next Monday, which would be fantastic. Yes, so noted. A couple of other ones I mentioned. The week after we'll be touching on the mandated use of DNS for content blocking. Very topical now, as it turns out, as well, given all the stuff we talked about at the start of the call with Seria, amongst other things. And then the plan for the week after the 9th, and I'm going to mention one other one after that, which we agreed last week, is it'd be the first meeting of the EU's multi-stakeholder forum on internet standards deployment is taking place at the end of this month. So I think Vittorio and Philippe and Ross, amongst others, are planning to go to that. So we've sort of put that in as a chance to just feedback on how that went. So it'd be I think a fairly informal chat, just based on the views of those and any other participants that care to join us to share their take on the first meeting. Obviously, at that point, Aaron, you'd just be finding its feet, but I think it still will be interesting to hear how it's gone. And as a reminder, the intent is that forum will identify best practice in 4 different areas, including DNS and email and other things. Not write new best practice, but identify from existing material what's out there that is best practice that would be helpful for compliance with NIS2 regulations in particular. And then the final one I mention is chatting over social media, over LinkedIn, sorry, with one of the DNS Tapia team yesterday, and they've potentially got some stuff they wanted to talk about. So tentatively at the moment, we'll do that mid-February on the 16th. just to probably do an explain of what it is, and then an update on some of the latest developments linked to that from the team themselves, which would be also interesting. I wasn't fully up to speed with that, but I had a quick look at it after the our exchange of messages, and I think it will be of interest to this group. I think that was pretty much it from me. Yes, it was. So let me stop sharing and see if there's anything else that is on anyone else's mind at the moment. Because we've got a bit more time, as most of our US participants aren't on, given it's Martin Luther King Day, although I do see Eric and Tail are on. Possibly others from the US. But so anyone want to jump in with anything else that you feel would be useful to share, or follow Pete's fine example and highlight things that you found impenetrable, even that's okay as well. I'll just give you a minute or two to decide if you do, and if you do, just unmute or pop something in the chat if that's easier. I'm not seeing anyone typing. And no one's unmuted. In fact, more gone the reverse direction. Michael has muted, in case I thought he might be wanting to say something else. No, doesn't look like it. Okay, well, I hope that was useful. Thanks again, Gianpaolo, for giving the update on your thinking, how that's moved on, and we will share the slides from that as well. And goodness, it's only a few weeks before some of us will be in Mumbai, which I'm really looking forward to. Apparently it'd be 31 degrees and dry in March, which would be a distinct improvement on wet and grey and cold in the UK at the moment. So only a few weeks' time. Anyway, I'm rambling even. So thanks everyone. Have a fantastic week. Look forward to seeing you next week when we'll talk about all things blockchain-based naming and all of that entails. So catch you all then. Have a great week. See you then. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.